All right, let's get into it. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. And this is Samuel regarding my Rails with the JavaScript profile project. And it's a quick and easy requirement. And I'm just going to lay it out there. I might combine some of the requirements together and we will go from there. Hopefully, it makes some sense. The plan is kind of just read over the requirements real quick, as well as go over the JS file of which I coded in and how those connect together, and I'll just do a light demonstration of the app itself. So this is a Rails project app in which was combined with a JavaScript front end. And one of the requirements here says must translate JSON response from your Rails app into a JavaScript model object using either ES6 class or constructor syntax. The model object must have at least one method on the prototype. Right. Second one says must render at least one index page list of things via JavaScript and an active model serialization JSON backend. Third here says must render at least one show page, one specific thing via JavaScript and an active model serialization JSON backend. The fourth requirement is letting us know your Rail application must dynamically render on the page at least one serialized as meta relationship through JSON using JavaScript. And the fifth one says here must use Rails application to render a form for creating a resource that is submitted dynamically and displayed through a JavaScript JSON without a page refresh. So going back to the flight JS, what I coded on was in my Rails project is about an app that could create a flight, and that flight has owners as well as they could go on a flight ride as well. So to start off with my JavaScript piece of it, I made a quick function here, and I use a listener to load up the page, and I put some JavaScript is loading and working here just for us to be able to use. I already have the app running in the background for us to use, and here we are already on the page as well. So as one of the requirements mentioned to us here, and I'll be going back and forth, so stay with me if you're following through with this. It says must translate JSON response from your Rails app into JavaScript model object using ES6. So before I even did anything, I created a serializer right here for flights. So flight serializer, and I included in right there in the relationship, has been a relationship of flight rides, in which by that on its own fulfills for us our number 3 requirement as well as a piece of number 2 requirement. So we use that, and as you can see, I have my functions laid in here saying listen for the click as well as listen new flight form. Then I also had it in there get post. So when we come into the page itself and we're on the actual new page, and you click on right here, you click on get flight data. This is going to print out for us the latest flight data, including flight ID, destination, fuel cost. Well, how does that happen? Very simple. I created a button right here inside the flight, so pardon me. Let's make sure I'm having this correctly. Right, inside right here, and this is the flight new page. Right at the bottom, I created the ID of flight data as well as when that data is collected, where it's going to be put into. So in this piece is called Ajax flights. So going back into the flight.js, as you can see, I have the functions ready to go, and I put an event prevent default here, so it doesn't do the former function of what it's used to. However, I redirected it, for better lack of terms, for it to run the function get post. So once that happens, it's gonna go in Ajax, and as you can see, it's gonna tag into our API for that project, or URL, if you will. You're calling the get method, making sure it's a JSON. Then we said when it's done fetching the data, It's going to console log it. It's going to get that data for us. Then it's going to input that data into my flight, which is a dummy code of what I put here. And as you can see as well, I kind of did it. I had a constructor in here for us to use. Then also I put a static layout form that could be used here, including right below that I put a flight prototype for flight HTML, in which how I want my data to be categorized and laid out for the viewer's use. Okay, so going back into it, I'm calling this right here flight HTML. I'm calling that right here, and I'm using document.getElementById, telling this function, hey, once you're done finishing getting the data and parsing it like I would like you to, simply just park that information into Ajax Flight, which is what renders this page for us, as we could tell that we already did. Okay, so that's good. Then the second piece of it is we want the new flight to show some form. And before I even move forward, let me backtrack here for a quick second. So as we can see, our first part of our requirement is met. Our second part of our requirement is met using active modal serialization JSON backend. Our third part of serialization is met, and we also have as many relationship in there through JSON. So the fourth piece as well is met for us. So I'm going to refresh the page for us to see. Now I want this piece of it where I want to get new data, whereby a user could put in new information, and through the ID right on the bottom of that, when that user put in the information, I want that information to be parked or put down here. So this is what we have here, and as you can see, once we click on new flight, it gave a whole list of data for us that we could use. Fuel cost, let's say $1,000 or $1 million, what have you. We could say destination will be Paris, a nice location. Flight departure is going to departure from New York. So, again, something simple that we already know. Flight seating, we say it can only take 13 people, and we can head a submit at the end of that. Okay. So, and if we look right here at the bottom into my console log, you can see that that information is logged in there. Well, how does that happen? Very simple. When the JS already, if you remember, we have our function.ready and all the buttons included up here, and we have the click event listening working for us. So this is the function that puts that in place for us, and we simply say, okay, once this button is clicked, the Ajax new flight form that I showed you earlier in the new HTML, okay, this is what I want to happen. On that click function, prevent the default action, then use the information that's inputted and run that. Okay, then simply, of course, we have to have the document that query selector. We have div new flight form, which is what we have here. Then headed to that, we want the inner HTML and putting in our new flight form of what was rendered. Okay, and then we have somehow we want it to be rendered down here. I put the function post data function. Well, once this is completed, that function is going to come down here. We already know about our submit, and simply what we have happening here is saying, okay, of course you're gonna prevent the default action. You're gonna give it a value, but we're gonna use that serializer. You're gonna sterilize the information, and we're gonna also say, in case of flight, I want you to post that value, aka post the value to the DOM. And once that is done, using the function .done here, put that data nicely in there for us to use, then we could find a place to display it. So that is kind of where I'm gonna stop with this, and it was fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.